Okay, then I think we can start. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, we have the privilege of hosting Samran Salmani, an expert in software engineering, who will be guiding us through the art of the problem solving. Samran, the floor is yours. Let's start.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. Let me share my screen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Art of Problem Solving webinar. I'm very glad to have you all here, and I hope to have a good webinar with you. Let's start with Art of Problem Solving. Yeah, my name is Samran Salmani. You can contact me by this email, and also it's my LinkedIn profile. Please feel free if you have any question, if you forgot to ask it during the webinar, and feel free to contact me to have a response from my side. These are topics I'll cover in this presentation. We have some introduction about the problem, and after that we can discuss about the problem definition or some general problem solving techniques. Another part is time to solving, or also to increase some problem solving skills. And also at the end, we have some books to introduce to you about the problem solving and also in the concept of programming. At the first, let's start about the problem definition. Let's see some academic definition about the problem regarding the Oxford English Dictionary. A matter or situation regarded as unwelcome or harmful and needing to be dealt with and overcome. Each piece of these sentences, it has some meanings. For example, a matter or situation, this refers to any issue, problem, circumstances that could be sometimes a personal challenge, social challenge, and for ourselves, for this webinar, it would be a programming challenge. And also is another part of this sentence is regarded as unwelcome. It is emphasizes that the matter is not desirable. It has, for example, negative consequences, it causes pain. And also maybe at the end of these sentences, it implies that needing to be dealt with and overcome. The matter requires attention and effort to resolve or mitigate its negative effects. But yeah, let's deep into more in the problem definition and make it easier for ourselves during the next slides. Problem definition in software development, problem definition is the process of clearly describing a problem and steps need to solve it. This is the first step in identifying problem and is a key part of the product development process. Maybe the first question is that why problem definition is important for us, because a good problem definition help us ensure that the right problem is solved and the product meets the needs of stakeholder. It can help developer and stakeholder communicate clearly about what need to be done. And also this concept exists, I think, in Scrum domain. In Scrum also we have DOD, by the meaning the definition of done, is a comprehensive checklist of necessary criteria that ensure that the increment is at the desired quality and is truly done. And because of that, it's too important to have a same definition about the problem in the current team. And for each problem, we need to know about the current state. What's the current state of the problem? What's the desired state, the situation that needs to be achieved? Maybe sometimes we miss some states during some problem solving. For example, another one is the gap, the difference between the current and desired state, or impact, the consequence of the problems. But the last one is the solution. The solution also is one of the part of the problem, the steps required to reach the desired state. Maybe in this webinar and in this presentation, we talk more about the solution and how we can prepare a good solution for our problem. And also, again, I imply that it's important for the team to have shared understanding of the problem definition. Let's talk about general problem-solving technique. I would talk about some techniques about the problem solvings. We have multiple techniques regarding some academic books and also regarding some psychology books. Just I have mentioned some of them in here, and we can use them. The first one, have a plan. For solving a problem, we need a plan. Let's to see a quote which is belong to the General David Eisenhower. He was a five-star general in United States Army. He said that I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. He meant that battles or wars are so complex that it's impossible to predict everything that could happen and have predetermined response for everything it would be happen in the war. And also in the software development, we have the same circumstances because we are in a complex environment and we can't predict everything, every bug it would be happen, every performance issue and any, for example, future task. We can't predetermine everything. And because of that, in most of programming, they mention these sentences. And also for programming, we need a plan. Maybe it would be useless, but without any plan, we don't know our team capacity. We don't know about the team relationship and about the communication. And because of that, we need a plan. Let's talk more about the plan during the problem solving. Maybe at the first one, what's the plan for the problem solving? Planning in problem solving, it means to have some meaningful milestone. What's the meaningful milestone for solving a problem? You can imagine that you have an offline store which is belong of your father, and you are a software engineer and you want to have an online store for the future. Maybe it's you have a problem now. What's the problem to support offline store and also online store both together? Maybe it better to have a plan for that. Maybe have some milestone. What's the milestone for this problem? Maybe at the first one is that cost of online store. Maybe the second one is that should I use the CMS or I should develop everything of this online store by myself? Or maybe another milestone, it would be inventory management to synchronize both of offline and online store inventory together. And because of that, during the problem solving, we should have some small milestone instead of to have a big problem. Another benefit of have a plan. Planning also allows you to set intermediate goal and achieve them. I think it's too important because without a plan, you have only one goal, to solve the problem. Until you have solved the problem, you won't feel you have accomplished anything. But when you have multiple milestones in each steps, when you solve each step of this milestone, you have a better feel and you have confidence that you can do something during the problem solving. Without a plan, you are simply hoping for a lucky break. Yeah, you can imagine that you want to travel to a city and by driving your car without a map is like to trying to find a place you have never been before, and you may get there by chance, but you'll probably get lost or waste a lot of time. But when you have a map here is look like to the milestone and have some plan, you have a clear guide and know where you are going, and also you know the time which you can predict it to arrive to this city. Another part is that without a plan, you will be disappointed. Also, this one, it's very important because of this case, you just have a one goal. When you have a one goal, you didn't achieve this goal, but with a plan, you have multiple mini goals, and step by step, you can achieve these goals. Another technique is divide the problem. Finding a way to divide a problem into steps or phases can make problem much easier. Yeah, if you can divide a problem in two pieces, you can divide the difficulty and you can solve two small issue instead of one big issue. And because of that, divide the problem, it's important because during the divide problem, you are dividing a big problem into multiple small problem and maybe solving these small problems and contact it together, it would be easier for us. For example, on here, you want to set up a e-commerce project. You have two approach. One approach is that to complete this online store or e-commerce project step by step, today by today, but without any divide the problem. Each day to complete one part of this application. But in another approach, at the first time, you are divide the problem into multiple problem or module. For example, on here in this divide, you can divide the product into the user management, product catalog, shopping cart, checkout, and so on. In this case, you have divided the problem into multiple small problems, and you can solve it easier. Also here, I have mentioned some benefits of divide the problem. The first one is that reduced complexity. Yeah, as I have mentioned, when you divide a big problem into some small problem, you can divide also difficulty. Improve maintainability. Yeah, when you divide the problem, change or bug fix can be made individual module without affecting the entire system because already you have divided the problem. Faster development. Also in the case of in the case of dividing problem, we can have parallel development. Maybe one problem is divided into some multiple and small problems. The team can work parallel and can do some parallel on these problems. Better code reusability. Yeah, divide the problem is more look like to module things, and when you have multiple module, you can have a better usability. Improve code quality. Focusing on smaller, more manageable tasks allows better code design and testing also. Another part is also important, and sometimes we don't know about that. It's start with what you know. And also you see a shortcut on the below. First-time novelists are often given the advice, write what you know. New writer often told to write about the things you are familiar with it. This doesn't limit to only writing about yourself, but it's generally easier to write about the things you understand already. And because of that, we are talking about start with what you know. For example, on here, we have multiple modules during developing an e-commerce project. On here, we have 8 modules. The blue one is the one part of which I know, and I would start with the blue one. For example, user management, product catalog, and admin panel. But what's the benefits? Why I should start with what I know? Let's see the benefits of this technique. The first one is build confidence and momentum. Starting with the easy part of a coding problem help you to build confidence to solve the rest. And yeah, I think it's advice to us when you have you are working in the complex area with multiple module. It's very easy, and it's make us happy to start with the module which I know, and also to see my progress during the development. Leverage existing knowledge. Start by trying to solve the problem using your current programming skills and tools before looking for outside help or learning something new. This will help you understand the problem better and come up with a creative solution. And also, it helps you to focus on the current problem without focus on some new technology, some new question, to have response for some new question. and it helps us just to focus on the current problem and solve the current problem. And the last benefit is focus on incremental progress. Yeah, begin with the easy part and slowly move to the harder one. This way, the whole thing won't seem so difficult, and you will have better chance of the finishing because you are doing step by step, and you are starting by the easy one, and each day you can see your progress, and you can go forward to the harder problem and solving the harder thing. And because of that, it's important to start with what you know. Another technique is reduce the problem. Reduce the problem also have some benefits. Let's see these benefits of reduce problem. Also, in the next slide, I have a programming sample codes, which I would develop it with reduce the problem thing. I can show you in the next slide, but let's see the benefits. The first one is simplify complexity. By reducing the scope of a complex problem, by simplifying the constraint, reducing dimension, or limiting the input size, you create more manageable sub-problems that you can potentially solve it. Another one is identify missing skills. This one is also so important because through problem reduction, you can pinpoint the specific area where you lack the necessary knowledge or skills. The focus is identifying allow you to seek or learn the specific concept which you don't know, because during the problem reduction, you know that, yeah, this part of the problem, you don't have enough knowledge about that. And you can search about that. You can ask to another part of the team to have a response for your question. And because of that, it's important also. Build confidence and incremental progress. Yeah, working on smaller and simpler version of the problem makes you feel good when you solve them. These small wins give you confidence and encourage to keep you working on the bigger problem, because you have multiple small divided problem, and each progress on these small problems, it can helps you to have a good confidence. Improve communication. Also, this one, it's too important when you are working in the team. When you ask for help, explaining the smaller part of the problem and exactly where you stuck makes it much easier for the people to help you. When you have a specific question, when you have a specific issue instead of a big problem, also another part of the team can help you more better. Yeah, here let's see a sample code. Just it's simulated code which we want to have by reduce the problem approach. For example, you can imagine that in your company, we need to have a web service which it can support 1 million transactions per second. Maybe we can do it on this approach, make it work, then make it good. Let's see how we can do it, this problem or this issue by reduce the problem. Yeah, here I'll show you my IDE. Just it's some sample code in .NET Framework and C#. At the first part, I have reduced the problem at the first time to implement just the logic. You can imagine that this logic, for example, this web service is related to a banking web service. For example, to add some money to your account by your smartphone, cell phone. But at the first, I need to have the logic. And at the first, I need to implement the logic of this web service, as you see on here. Just I have a web service to process transaction, and here I have some logic to process these transactions. And here, just I have simplified the problem for myself to don't have multiple issues, multiple new things, and I don't need here new knowledge. Just I implemented the basic of the web service. But in the next steps, on each steps, I can add more thing to this logic. For example, at the second part, I would to have an internal queue for this web service to process the transaction better, to in-queue this each request into the internal queue, and in the second part of the application, read each of the transaction from the queue to process the web service more faster. On this case, although I have simplified the queue mechanism for myself. For example, on here, I have used concurrent queue. I didn't use still, for example, a RabbitMQ or Kafka or something else, because each of these queue mechanism, they need to have some open close connection, or also maybe reading the queue. It would be complex for me. But on this case, just I have used some internal queue to adapt my application with the queue. And here,
Sorry to interrupt, Samran. Can you please zoom in a bit because
yeah,
someone
sure.
mentioned in the chat. Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
okay, great. Yeah, in this case, just I have used an internal queue without anything else, just to support the queue in my application. And in the third part, I have used RabbitMQ. For example, in here, during the reduction, I have done some steps. At the first one, implement the logic, internal queue, and in the third part, I'm using the RabbitMQ, and here I have added RabbitMQ. And maybe each part of this increment thing, it would be in a new version. You can see the stability of the new version, and for the future version, you can add the new techniques. For example, in the new version, you can add the RabbitMQ. And also for the fourth part, I have used it to add some database things. And here I have added some log in the database to show it in my some back office application reports to see the total transaction or something else. And in the last part, I have used some, for example, load balancing thing or some caching things. And also we can do more improvement about this. But what is the important on here? At the first time, I have used it with, and I have started with very small part of the application. Just I have implemented the logic. And each incremental thing, on each incremental process, I have added the new logic, and I have added the queue, RabbitMQ, database thing, and the last part, I have added something about the load balancing and caching. And because of that, the reducing the problem, it would help us to solve the problem easier. Let's go into slides again. Yeah, I was in the reduce the problem. The another part is look for analogy. What's the analogy for solving the problem? An analogy for our purposes is a similarity between the current problem and the problem already solved that can be exploited to help solve the current problem. For example, you can imagine that one part of application is slow currently. You want to make it better. For example, in your previous experience, you solved this problem by something. For example, in your previous experience, you have solved by checking something in the front end application, or make some parallel thing in the backend, or finding some long running query in the database. By these things you have solved already. And maybe also this experience could help you again for solving this problem. And because of that, is look for analogy is also important during solving the problem. And another thing is experiment. Also, this one is important from my perspective. Let's see about the experiment. Experiment is a thoughtful and controlled way to explore a problem. Instead of guessing blindly, you try specific thing with an informed hypothesis. observe the outcomes, and learn from them. This process helps you gain clarity and make progress. Yeah, these sentences, maybe it would be difficult for us to know more about the guessing and experiment, but let's make it easier for us. At the first time, let's know more about the hypothesis. The hypothesis, its meaning to, for example, its meaning to educated guess or a testable prediction. In this case, we have two approach for solving. One of them is guessing and one of them is experiment. In the guessing way, you are writing a code and hope it work without much easier reasoning behind it. But in experiment, you make an educated guess, test it in control way. Okay, what's really experiment? For example, you can imagine that you have some PySystem code. It's with the name of function is, for example, shopping cart. At the first time, you are just guessing that, yeah, it's the shopping cart. Maybe it creates something in some tables. But in experiment way, you are checking this method and debug this method step by step. You are making some input for this method and you can see the result. Also, experiment, it helps us during learning new thing. For example, you want to learn Angular framework. You have a book. In the book is mentioned, for example, component is look like a modular thing. You can use it in Angular. In guessing way, you are guessing, yeah, Angular is a component, is look like to a module and we can use it. But in experiment way, you are opening your IDE, you are create a new component, you are putting some input for them, you can see the result and output, and also for the second part, maybe you can connect some component together, and because of that experiment, it's really help us to know more about the current problem and current states, because in the experiment you are making some input, you are debugging the codes, you can see the output and the results, and because of that experiment is indispensable actually. Another part is too important is don't get frustrated. Yeah, sometimes spending hours trying to solve a problem can be frustrating. When you are frustrating, you won't think as clearly, you won't work as efficiently, and everything will take longer and seem harder. How we can have some strategy to don't get frustrated? Maybe at the first part is have a plan. A plan help us to writing this plan help us to have some mini goals and mini problem and solve it step by step, and when we can solve some small problems and we can see the progress, we won't frustrated. Another thing, when it comes down getting frustrated or taking a break, you should take a break. Yeah, get out of your chair and do something else, something that keeps your blood flowing but doesn't make your brain hard. For example, you can take a walk, or maybe you can cooking, but maybe after 1 hour and 2 hours you can switch to your problem and you can solve the problem with refresh mind. Sometimes also this one could help us work on multiple problems at once. If you got stuck on one, you can switch to another and avoid getting completely blocked. Yeah, in this case also you can use this strategy. For example, if you have multiple small problem, to prevent to block by one of them, you can switch for another one if you think it's easier, and if you think you have a solution for that, you can solve this one and maybe you can switch after solving this one to the another one. Document the solution. This part, our developers, also me, we don't like to write some documentation, but for problem solving, I think it's too important and it's help us really. Why it's important? Because our mental capacity is limited, so naturally we can't expect to remember how we resolved every issue, especially the number of tasks and responsibility in the company increases over the time. And here, just I have mentioned something about the documentation, the problem. It's just related to my experience, and during these years, helped me to solve the problems really. Let's see about them. For example, really for document the problem, I prefer to have this documentation in the cloud base instead of a physical notebook or something else, because in the cloud base, every time I have access to this documentation, every time I can add this documentation, I can have access in my cell phone or something else. For example, I can show you one of these documentation. I have used for in each company I have worked already. I have some category I'm using OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, and at the first, which I'm new to the company, I'll try to, for example, document the problem which I have solved already on this company, and it's helped me because I'm new to this company, and this document also helped me to learn more about.
Sorry to interrupt, Samran. We don't
Sure.
see the
Okay.
screen.
Oh, sorry.
We just see the PowerPoint.
Yo, sorry.
Yeah,
Now I think you can see.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm using the OneNote to maybe for each individual task or something, I have just noted that how I solved this problem. Because in the future, if this problem it would be happen, I have some documentation and I don't want to start from the beginning. And this documentation, it helped me. And again, I mentioned that yeah, our brain it has some limitation, and maybe we can't remember everything which we have solved already. And just I'm using some notes in the OneNote to note the solving, and also maybe I can here I don't have, and also maybe you can have something. Just let me show you again here. Yeah, about the solving thing, maybe you can have some categorized folder on your PC to make the related log, related investigation, related query to the problem which you have solved. Because in the future, if you face it again to same issue or same problem, you don't need to start from zero, and because you have already some knowledge about that. Another thing which is too important about the documentation is save your team's time and avoid interrupting other by watching a good documentation. Also, I think it's too important maybe when we can document something and we can refer to our documentation, we can save also our team time by asking a repetitive question or repetitive problem just to see our documentation at the first time, and it makes our behavior more professional because we know how we can solve the tasks. Another part which is too important, I think, it's when. Most of the technique of problem solving are focuses on how we can solve it. But here we have something about when is better to solve the problem. Why when is important for us? Just let me describe something about our biological rhythm and sleeping time, because humans don't all experience the day in the same way. Each of us has a specific sleep time and a specific performance time, and we should know more about that. Maybe at the first, we should know about our performance time and sleeping time. We should answer these three questions. What time do you usually go sleep? What time do you usually wake up? And what is the midpoint between these two times? This question is too important because it's related to the Ruinberg academic tests. It's the most prominent chronobiology in the history. He proposes a simpler way to determine people's performance time and clock time. In the next slide, let's see about these categories. We have three type of categories which regarding the midpoint of the sleeps. One of them is lark, one of them is categorized the third bird, one of them is categorized the owls. For example, if your midpoint of your sleep time is between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m., you are categorized as the lark. But most of the people are categorized to the third bird. For example, on here, if your midpoint sleep time is categorized between the 3 or 4 a.m. until the 5 a.m., you are the third bird. And owls also are the people which sleep in the morning, which we are wake up, and their midpoint maybe between is 6 a.m. and 12 p.m. But why it's important? Let's see more about this. Here we have categorized some in the book. They are categorized some tasks, and we have multiple tasks on here. Analytical task, insight task, making an impression or making a decision. Programming, here on this webinar we are talking about the programming. So programming is categorized in the analytic task. For example, on here it's mentioned that for example, if you are an owl, who are owl? Owls are the people which they sleep between the 6 a.m. and 12 a.m. Yeah, it suggests that the owl people, they can do analytical tasks in the evening better, in the afternoon and evening, instead of the morning. So it's important to know more about our sleep time, our performance time. Why? Because don't let an important, boring task steal your best working time. Don't waste your best, more energetic time on boring and unimportant task. So it's important to use our best time to solve complex problem, not repetitive and boring task. And because of that, it's important to know about our biological time and to know more about our performance time. Because, for example, if you are an oval type people, you have best performance on the afternoon, and maybe you can postpone some of the complex thing and complex problem on the afternoon, and you can solve it better on this time. Another thing is improve the problem solving skills. Yeah, there is some techniques which it can help you for solving the problem. Maybe one of them is a coding challenge. Currently, we have multiple platforms which you can have access and to solve some programming challenge. For example, LeetCode, HackerRank, and Coders Wars to solve some algorithms here. Maybe another one is daily coding. At the first time when you are still a junior, it's too important to have at least one problem a day, and also to solve it successfully each day, and to think about this and to have some techniques to solving this problem. Another one is real world application. Yeah, also this one, it's a good idea. Build personal project or contribute to open source project. This help you apply problem solving in practical scenario. Another one is pair programming. Also, it's important. Work with partner to tackle problem together. This can expose you different approach and solution. Maybe if you have a mentor, or maybe in your company, if you have a team lead, sometimes you can have pair programming together, and maybe you can learn many things from your partner. Another thing is code review. Participate in code review to learn from other code and receive feedback on your own. And the last one, also it's important to have forum and discussion group to participate in online communities. For example, Stack Overflow or Reddit, to solve some problem which other people asked already. And also it can help you to improve your problem solving skill. Another part which I can show you, it's the books which I have used during this webinar. And also yeah, you can if you want to think more about the problem solving and about the thinking for the problem, you can search more about that in these books. For example, one of them is Think Like a Problem. Another one is When, which I have used for the when part of my webinar, or Code Complete, or also Thinking Fast and Slow from the Daniel Kahneman. Also, it's a good book. It could help us during problem solving. But yeah, as I mentioned also, it's very important to have a problem each day and solve it, because our brain, it would be trained on this case, and we can improve our problem solving skill. Yeah, I think it's my last slide, and thank you for watching this webinar. And yeah, this was the whole thing about the problem solving.
Thank you, Samran. It was really nice, and thanks for sharing
You're
all of
welcome.
your knowledge and experience. I think one of the things that I would love to mention was about, for example, one of the things to mention is about how we question about the problem that we have, which is very important for the communication as well. When we ask a question to the team, when we have a problem, uh, asking the right and correct question is really important to find the solution as soon as possible, which yes, you already mentioned, and it was really nice and good point. And another things that I want to highlight about the documentation, that usually most of the developers don't like documenting the stuff, and we would like to write the code in the IDE and editor. And another approach that I heard maybe help others as well is about docs as a code, which is an approach to documenting the stuff for the product and project that we are working on. So maybe it is helpful, and I just wanted to mention and thank you. It was really nice. I learned a lot. Thanks.
You're
Not
welcome.
sure if anyone has any question. Please feel free to ask in the chat box, and then we can ask Samran. And I see also people. Thanks to you. It was really nice and helpful to share your experience. Thank you, Samran, and have a pleasure day, you and all the audience.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for preparing this webinar, and to have some sharing knowledge with other guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, and have a great day.
You too.